Halo fans, welcome back to the Halo McFarlane Toy Showcase. For those just tuning in for the first time, this is a part 2, so you might want to go back and check out the first video. That one covers all the figures I have based on the Bungie games, and I'll be referencing it sporadically throughout this video. Now with all that out of the way, let's get down to business. Serious toy business. Alright, let's start with some of the less impressive figures. First we have Red Spartan Warrior with Sniper from Halo 4. Now this is a Spartan 4, so it's got that, well, everyone calls it like a Power Ranger design, but I just don't see it. Power Rangers are guys wearing like spandex, you know? And this is like the opposite of that, isn't it? Like, it's really techy and detailed. And if you're not into that, cool, let's just not call it Power Rangers. Like, in terms of game accuracy, this figure is pretty much spot on. It's got red armor, yes, but there's a bit of a silverish, whitish wash to make it look more aged. And the contrast between the black undersuit is really nice. I think the main issue is I'm just not a fan of the actual armor pieces. That's personal preference, like I would never wear this helmet in multiplayer. But like I said earlier, the humanoid figures from McFarlane generally have the best posability, and I guess, by extension, playability? Like, it does feel like something you could give a kid and they'd have some fun with it. I guess the feet are a little small, which means, like so many other figures you're seeing, it's just not going to be very easy to get this guy to stand up. He's really going to want to lean against the back of the bookshelf. One thing I really like here is that the hands have more of a standard action figure style about them. What I mean by that is that the fingers and thumb are curled in such a way that it's really easy to get this character to hold on to different kinds of weapons. And the one it comes with, as I mentioned, is the Sniper, and it kind of looks incredible. It's a pretty beefy weapon, and there's a lot of detail, mostly in terms of the mold. The paint is actually a little plain, but I think that's okay. It really gets a pass based on the attention to detail. There's even a little cord attaching the scope to the rest of the weapon. And next up is the red and white Spartan Soldier, armed with a battle rifle, also from Halo 4. The other figure I was iffy on, this one, same thing, maybe worse. Like, I really hate this armor, specifically the helmet. This is like indicative of 343's worst designs. I'm not saying this is the worst one, but this is the kind of thing I didn't like. The rest of it's a little better. The shoulders are nice, the forearms, and I really like the feet. I don't know, it gives me like a Dead Space vibe, and that's never a bad thing. And it's pretty neat how the knee pads protrude, as well as the various satchels attached to his thighs and chest. But there's really not much more to say. It's a decent figure, it just depends if you're into the design. Like the Canadian paint job is pretty cool, I guess. And man, I love the 343, especially the Halo 4 era battle rifle. That little bit of yellow really brings the design together for me. Maybe that's a hot take. Now that we got those two out of the way, let's move on to some of the more impressive stuff. Check it out, Halo 4 Master Chief. Now, this isn't going to be a big, like, art style video, but it's really easy to get sucked into that conversation. I do think a lot of people who love Bungie's Halo can kind of admit to the fact that Halo 4 Master Chief, in terms of redesigns, is pretty cool. And if you're a fan of that design, it's well represented with this figure. Like, this is pretty much spot on game accuracy. You can even see on his chest the remnants of his Halo 3 armor, the same battle damage. Except unlike the campaign co-op Chief, it doesn't have that little bit of silverish, whitish paint. Here it's just part of the mold. With this figure, the biggest issues are with its articulation, and not in any major way, and given it's McFarlane, that almost seems like it's not worth mentioning, but his head lacks the mobility of previous Chiefs. And while his waist looks like it should have articulation, it doesn't really. Like, his top half wiggles on some kind of ball joint, but not in any way that matters. But yeah, this is definitely a favorite of mine, and I remember when Halo 4 came out, I actually sought this figure out because I did like the redesign, and I wanted it represented in my collection. And if you're like me, maybe you should do the same. Now moving on to the big boys. We got here the Halo 4 Elite Zealot. Talk about spicy takes. This is probably my favorite figure, period. Out of all of these, this one is awesome. Why? Because I'm one of those weirdos that really loves the Halo 4 Elite design. I might be the only one of those weirdos. All too often, I've seen people say, they made the elites into big thugs. They're basically brutes. And maybe that's true, but I just freaking love this design. I like the beefiness, and I especially love how their arms are so exposed. Like, they don't have as many pieces of armor. It's almost like they're wearing tank tops. Anyway, with this figure, most of my passion stems from the design itself. I love the Halo 4 Elite, and here it is represented extremely accurately. The problem is it's kind of a janky toy. Like yes, you can move his legs and his knees and his arms, but he only really stands one way. He has to be hunched, and his knees have to be bent like that. And what's really disappointing is that with this figure, they actually made it so that his hands can open and close with a little joint, right? That's a good thing. But man, I cannot, for the life of me, get him to hold on to the energy sword. Yeah, he comes with this energy sword, which again, looks incredible. It's got like a neat lightning effect in it. And the colors here, this just totally blows away the other energy sword. I just wish he could hold it. You should be able to put it in his hand and close his fingers, and that's the end of it. But no, he holds it out like a rotten fish. If that. Most of the time, he just drops it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's an awesome figure if you like the design. And as an added bonus, yes, his helmet does come off. And look how cool that is. Like the other Elite, the blue one, his head was so small, but this one, it feels like proportionate in like a good way. So again, that's the Halo 4 Elite Zealot. As far as I'm concerned, it's a masterpiece, and every Halo fan should own one. I don't expect every Halo fan to own one, but they should. Alright, now we got some wonky ones. We got the Promethean Knight, also from Halo 4. And my god, this thing is huge. Again, not a popular design or inclusion in the franchise, but I have a soft spot for it. I do think these things belong in Halo, and I quite like a lot of the Promethean enemies. That said, it's definitely not practical in terms of a toy. It's very top-heavy, with tiny, spindly legs, and even smaller ballerina feet. Now, anticipating this problem, McFarlane did include 2 of these crescent-shaped stands, and what do you know, I lost one. By itself, this thing ain't doing nothing. You really need both of them. And that's why my Promethean Knight sits in a drawer. Also, you don't really put this on a shelf. The Arbiter, people see that, they're impressed. The Promethean Knight, they take pity on you. But they really shouldn't, because this is neat. He's got his little arms, like he's got his big arms, which have a scatter shot and energy blade. These are attached and can't be removed, of course. And he's got his little arms, his little man arms. Additionally, I have to commend McFarlane's effort to depict the little floaty bits. You know, the Promethean enemies have these chunks of metal that kind of, well, float alongside their arms and legs. So to create this effect, they use some translucent plastic. I mean, they're very much attached. They're not fooling anyone, but like I said, I appreciate the effort. In terms of paint, the Promethean Knight has a bit of a metallic sheen, which again is always a good thing, but I think the darker parts look a little cheap, like it's just a solid black, with a few little orange decals, but in this case maybe a little bit of a, silver wash, or just some kind of variance might have made it look more premium. That's not to say it's cheap, it's definitely not, but it lacks a bit of the grit of other McFarlane figures. Anyway, perhaps the neatest feature here is that its entire back can open up. Yeah, all these little wings can bend forward, but in this case, there's also a little compartment where you can fit the Watcher figure, sold separately. Again, cool idea, it's game accurate, and I appreciate the synergy created by purchasing multiple toys in the same line, but this guy can barely stand up on his own. I can't imagine sticking another toy into this part, the part that's already too heavy. Crazy. And the last Halo 4 figure I want to show you today is the Didact. Yeah, this guy's huge. Like, he's taller than the Promethean Knight. And, it's a fantastic display piece, but the scale is definitely not here. Like, I know the Didact's big, but he ain't that big. At least not compared to Chief, not like this. So, much like the Promethean Knight, translucent plastic is used to kind of tether the floaty bits to the rest of the figure. And I'd say overall, the paint job here is a lot better. You got reds, grays, black, and lots of different shades of yellow and orange, almost a gradient effect along the various decals. I like how parts of his armor extend on his forearms and behind his ankles. I never really noticed how cool the Didact's feet look. That's a neat thing about action figures. Sometimes you notice things you might not have noticed under other circumstances. In this case, it's the Didact's feet, and no, I don't have a problem. The Didact has an interchangeable head. Yes, you can swap between his helmet and his face. He's butt ugly, but God, I kind of like his face. I always leave his face on because that's the Didact, that's what he looks like. The helmet's maybe like a little cooler in the sense that's not, ugly, but it always looked a little bird-like to me. I don't know. It's not one of my favorites. So my Didact, he walks around proud. He owns this hideous face of his, complete with puffy, fleshy sacs along the sides of his head and his strange male pattern baldness. I'm not trying to body shame the Didact. He's a cool dude. Anyway, the best part of this figure, hands down, are his hands. Yeah, the Didact actually has what appear to be 2 thumbs, and those don't move, but every finger does bend individually. So you can have him clenching or reaching or using weird force powers to levitate Master Chief. So if you like the Didact, this is a must-own. It might be the only Didact figure. I'd have to look into that. As far as this one goes, it's totally solid, and I can't really think of too many things they could do to improve it. And finally, our only Halo 5 figure of the day is Poncho Chief, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This is just a ridiculous blip in history, immortalized in action figure form. For those unaware, in the original teaser for Halo 5, we saw Master Chief wandering through a desert in search of Cortana, and to keep a low profile, he wore a giant burlap poncho. It's just silly and awesome. It's perfect. Again, this is like a piece of history. It's almost embarrassing that it exists. Anyway, the poncho itself has a nice texture to it. The cross-hatching combined with the slight variance in paint going from black to brown really does make it look like it could be fabric. It completely hinders any sense of articulation, but you're not really worried about that with a figure like this, or at least you shouldn't be. But if you do want to play with your Poncho Chief, the good news is, underneath all this burlap, it's a regular Halo 4 Chief figure. Yeah, it looks a little cheaper than the one I showed you earlier, but it's pretty comparable. And hey, he's even got a bolt shot. Credit where it's due, this easily could have been a giant chunk of plastic with a Master Chief head and little feet attached to it. But they went the extra mile. They made a completely posable Chief figure with 2 separate clothing pieces to complete the effect. And if you leave on just the bottom half of the poncho, now it's Greek philosopher Master Chief. So really, it's a 3-in-1 deal. Unfortunately, McFarlane and the Halo brand parted ways after Halo 5. I guess, as with most of the fan base, they also didn't really like that game. Obviously, I'm kidding, but it's a shame. As you just saw, they made some great stuff. And yeah, we still get Halo figures, but it's not the same as the McFarlane line. That was something special. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us a lot at the Kyle and Jomo channel. And hey, thanks for watching.